I'm Heather Aveson here at Somerville Community Access Television, and I'm very pleased to introduce to you today Glenn Ferdman, the new Director of Libraries here in the city of Somerville. Welcome, Glenn.
Thank you.
So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. I have a master's degree in library science from Indiana University. I'm a native of Chicago. I've been working in the library profession for about 25 years. I often refer to myself as a library mutt because there's virtually no library environment that I haven't worked in, be it school library, academic library, public library. My first professional position, as a matter of fact, was at a law firm library. I've also worked in hospital library in the past, association library, so I've been all over the place.
And what drew you to the job here in Somerville?
Oh, well, Somerville, the community itself. I love its diversity, its location, the cultural vibrancy, the diversity. It's a great place to live and work. The location is wonderful, you know, being so close to Boston and Cambridge and all the neighboring communities. And then it's the people here. In fact, I shared this with the staff recently at the library, our first departmental meeting, in that when I came to interview for the job and met with the staff, I said to myself, you know, I can really see myself working with these people.
And it's going to be a little bit of a different environment than you've been working in most recently because you're at a university. So you have a much more homogeneous age group and focus there. Now you're working with a much broader constituency. How does that fit into your thoughts about coming here and taking over the library?
Sure, I view it as a wonderful opportunity. As I mentioned, I've worked in public libraries in the past, and one of the things that drew me here as well is the opportunity to work with folks from different age groups, backgrounds, socioeconomic levels. And the other thing too is that it's my firm belief that public libraries, of all the different types of libraries there are out there, including academic, school, etc., have the greatest opportunity to have impact on the community. I often like to tell this couple of stories about fairly recently in the Johnson County, Kansas, where I was living until I came here. There was a story that made the local news about a local high school student who used the 3D printer in the library's new makerspace to create a prosthetic hand for his neighbor, an elementary school neighbor, who was born with only 2 digits on his hand. So he found and he downloaded instructions on how to do this. With only a couple $100 worth of materials, he created a working prosthetic hand for his neighbor.
Something that never would have happened if
Correct.
the public library hadn't offered him those resources.
Absolutely not. And the other thing too is, another example I like to give is the recent unrest in Ferguson. The schools were closed. However, there was one public institution that remained open the entire time, which became a safe haven, and that was the public library. In fact, some teachers arranged to teach some of their classes in the public library space. And that library was recognized within the library community and elsewhere for their outstanding service to the community. So those are 2 examples I like to cite. Plus, you know, the myriad of other individual stories. You know, people, you know, we like to think that in this digital age, everybody's connected, everybody has a tablet, everyone has a smartphone. Well, you know what? That's not the case. In fact, the Somerville Public Library, last year, residents spent close to 200,000 hours on library computers at each of all of the 3 library locations combined. So there's still a real need out there for people to get access to the internet and to get access to a computer. Or we also have residents who, increasingly employers, are requiring their residents to apply for positions online. Well, you know what? Not everyone has access to a computer, not everyone has a broadband connection, and not everyone knows how to complete an online application. So we get a fair number of folks who come to the library to use a computer to complete an application, as well as to get help in completing that application.
That's what I was going to say. There's that whole support system there as well as they're moving through it, which probably not only the technical piece of it, but the self-esteem piece of it and the giving them confidence to move forward piece that somebody's there.
Absolutely. One of the new services we just offered, starting I think this week, was one-on-one computer training sessions for folks to learn those basic computer literacy skills, okay? And that is, to meet a real need in the community. So you can schedule time with our technology librarian Okay, sit down with you, show you how to use a computer, how to use email, how to set up and use an email account. You know, the kinds of things that a lot of people take for granted that everyone knows how to do. But the truth of the matter is that that's not the case. There's still quite a number of people out there that don't have those skills. So this is something that just a new service that we launched to meet this need in the community.
And what about being integrated with the schools as well, their libraries? Is there a connection there? Do you see a connection happening?
Absolutely, yes, there is. We do have existing connections. However, there's one of the areas that I want to expand and to grow. And I'm looking forward to getting out into the community and meeting with folks at the local schools, as well as civic community groups and civic leaders, in order to make those connections and look for those opportunities to expand our programming and our collaboration. And the schools schools are a natural partner for us. In fact, the location of the main branch being right next to the high school means that we get a significant number of students after school who come over to utilize our teen room. So there's just a natural connection right there that we have, and we definitely want to expand and build on that.
I guess your comment there about being close to the high school has to lead me into the new library question. You're coming into Somerville at a time when there's grant money that has been approved for a new library. What can you tell us about that and where that stands? And
Sure. Right now that process is in flux to the best of my knowledge. The city is looking at different uses, I think, of Union Square. There has been talk about locating a new library facility in that space. But from what I understand, that it's still part of the conversation, that nothing has been set in stone. So if that happens, that would be great. It would be wonderful. At the current time, we recently launched a West Branch renovation project. The city has hired an architectural firm. They're called Design Lab. They're a local Boston firm. And we're going to be going out fairly soon to engage the community in a conversation about what they want to see in that new space in terms of physical spaces, in terms of programs, and in terms of services. So that's going to be done in a face-to-face community meeting type of format, as well as an online format, so folks can also offer their thoughts and their suggestions in an online environment, be part of that conversation.
great, which is helpful for you being new, but what do you bring as your first priority that you would like to see move forward?
Well, one of the first things I've been doing is getting to know the staff, establishing and building those relationships, learning about what it is that we do on a more granular scale in terms of the services that we offer, the programs that we do, the collections. Speaking of collections, I learned that through, I believe it was some type of partnership with the Boston Public Library, that we digitized a portion of our local history collection, photographs and I think some city records and things of that nature. And we recently provided a link to those digitized items from the library's website and promoted it on our social media sites. So it's about learning more. It's, for me to learn more about what it is that we're currently doing, getting out in the community, meeting people, the community groups and organizations, civic leaders and schools and so on and so forth, establishing those connections and looking for opportunities to expand our programming efforts, our services. Met with someone recently from one of the local banks to talk to them about offering a series of financial literacy workshops targeting different age groups in the library, which is financial literacy is a very hot topic now. What to do with your money, whether you're a college student, how to save for school, or if you're, working person, how to save for retirement, or someone who's entering retirement age, how and where to invest your money and so forth. So that's just one example. We've got lots of potential partners out there. We're very excited about making those connections as a way of expanding our programs and services to the residents of the community.
And really making the library a community center.
Absolutely.
It sounds like, a place where there are programs
Absolutely.
for all ages, all interests.
It's true. We want to grow, we want to expand that, we want to reduce barriers for why people would want to come to the library. We also want to get out and raise the library's visibility and profile. I think I get the impression that not a lot of folks know about all the various programs and services and collections that we have and that we offer, whether they be our printed collections of books and magazines or our research databases, which are available 24/7 from the library's website. We have a service, I believe it's called Hoopla, where you can download for free movies, audiobooks, and music. Okay, so you don't even physically have to come to the library to utilize our services.
It's a virtual library.
So yes, we want to get out there and we spread the word, you know, and increase the knowledge on the parts of the residents about libraries' programs and reduce barriers for why people would want to come to the library. I'd like to tell this story. I was doing some market research in the sauna recently. And there was some young fellows there, and they're having a conversation. So I took advantage of the opportunity to introduce myself. They both of them grew up in Somerville, and I asked them, you know, do you use the library? And well, the answer came back, not a whole lot. So I said to them, okay, well, what are some of the things that we could do to bring you through the door? So they talked about, you know, digital editing labs. They talked about some type of gaming room or environment. So in this, you know, also segues back into or loops back into the conversation about the West Branch, right? Given the demographics of that neighborhood, thinking about, you know, what are the types of services and collections that we can offer at that location that would be of interest to the people who live in and around Davis Square.
And is that, when you talk about the locality of a branch and gearing it towards that demographic, how does that fit into the bigger picture of the future of libraries in general? I mean, you've got the local branch that has to fit that demographic, but you also have the trend of where libraries are going. How do you see those working together? Where are they going?
Sure, they fit together, you know, in terms of the trends, current trends and best practices in public libraries. Similar to academic libraries, actually, in creating open spaces, technology-rich spaces, flexible spaces that can be used for a variety of purposes, whether it be group individual study, meeting spaces, collaborative type of work, with furniture that can be easily arranged and rearranged for a variety of different purposes. Lots of places to plug in because increasingly people are bringing their devices with them to the library. And then also in terms of services, we talked about, you know, the program that we just launched recently for one-on-one computer literacy, increasingly offering those types of 21st century, to support the 21st century literacies, including computer literacy, also offering, public libraries are offering career and job search, or creating career and job search centers where they provide access to resources and information to help folks in their careers and their job searches, as well as services and classes to help them search for jobs, how to write a resume, and so forth. Increasingly, public libraries are creating these maker spaces containing technology and also hand and sometimes power tools, some of which they lend out, so people can come together individually or in groups to make stuff. Okay, other libraries are experimenting with publishing centers. Okay, where you can, writing centers, publishing centers, where they offer courses and equipment to help people produce written materials or to digitize them and to publish them. So those are some examples of the kinds of things that public libraries are doing in order to respond to the needs of the community and the interests. And of course, I get asked this question a lot, books will never go away.
In my mind,
there's this marriage between the print and the digital. I see them as coexisting as opposed to being these oppositional forces. Now, having said that, it's true, if you look at statistically speaking, libraries across the board, whether they happen to be public or academic libraries, the trend is in the last several years that circulation of print materials is going in this direction, whereas circulation and usage of electronic books and related resources is going like this. Having said that, at the same time, there's still and will always be, at least I hope there will be, a demand for print resources. It's a question of, finding the right mix.
Well, and as I say, with a set budget, you have X resources to spend. Does it go to technology or does it go to books? That has to be
Sure.
a balance.
So the answer is yes, it goes to both. The question is, what percentages do we allocate? And then we look at the data. We look at the trends to see what are people using the most, and then allocate accordingly. Or we, periodically survey people, whether it be in the sauna or elsewhere, to find out what are they using, what do they want to see in the library, and use that information to plan accordingly.
What can we look forward to coming up at the library this summer?
Well, we are about to launch the annual summer reading program, which traditionally targets the juvenile population, and hopefully this year our teenage population. So we're putting together a whole series of programs for reading clubs and related activities and events that will occur during the summer months in order to encourage students, particularly at the younger grades, because literacy skills are so important, and studies have shown that the earlier children start reading and the more they read, it just has benefits across the board in terms of their learning and their success in school. So we can look forward to that. Check our website for dates and times and programs, and we want to really encourage everyone, parents, to encourage their children to sign up for the program. We'll have rewards for kids who do so on a weekly basis, so there are lots of incentives. So we hope we'll get a really good turnout this year.
Good. And when it's quiet during the summer, you're not so busy running around, let the kids spend a couple of hours at the library
Absolutely,
now and then,
yes.
just exploring the
That's
world
right.
through books.
That's right. Think of us when you're at wit's end, what to do with the kids this summer. Come on down to the library.
So because we both grew up in a time when there were a lot of books at libraries and very little technology, tell me about your favorite childhood memory from the library.
Oh gosh, well, just going there is a safe place to go, a quiet place to read and to explore. That's another reason why I hope do everything in my power to prevent print books from going away. It's that serendipity factor, just getting lost in the stacks and wandering, right? And coming across stuff that you never would have had you not had that ability to do that. Now, having said that, there are some library catalogs, online catalogs, that are trying to reproduce that in an online environment with greater or lesser degrees of success. But I don't think any digital environment can truly replicate that experience of just wandering through and getting lost in the stacks. And then, you look at your watch and hours have gone by and before you know it.
And you never knew you were interested in macrame before that. It's very interesting you say that, because I have a similar feeling about newspapers, print versions of newspapers versus online versions, because I think you are exposed simply by flipping the pages and seeing it all in front of you to articles, commentaries that you might not search online for if you're looking at a newspaper.
Absolutely.
So I'm with you on that one. I'm going to put you on the spot. Summer reading list. What is on your summer reading list?
It's interesting. In years past, what I had done is gone to my local public library, and raided their used book section to discover works primarily of fiction, because summer's a time when I like to read primarily fiction. And again, it's a serendipitous approach, because whatever just happened to be on their used book shelves, and that way I got introduced to authors that I never would have read in the past. I'm terrible about names of authors and titles, I'll admit that, true confession. But I love a good read with a good plot line, good character development, and usually I can tell within the first couple pages whether it's going to do it for me or not. My attitude is that if a good author knows this and will do this, ideally hook the reader with that very first sentence, which in my opinion, in my experience, is a sign of a truly gifted writer. If they have the ability to do that, grab you by the neck, in fact, and that very first sentence, and you're like, okay, I cannot put this book down to save my life. I have to continue reading this and turning the pages to find out what happens.
So you're not going to share any specifics with
No,
us?
no,
Okay, we have to go out and find our own
absolutely.
summer reading list.
That's right.
You know, I used to be one of those people who, when I started a book, I had to finish it. I felt a commitment to finishing it because the author had put all of this work into it, and maybe in the last 10 pages it got really, really good and compelling. But now I've realized that there are too many books to read in the world in the amount of time that I have to read them. And much like you, if it doesn't grab me right away, it's going to go back on the shelf, and I'm going to move on to the next one that does grab me. So I encourage everyone to visit the library, say hello to the new director, and find your own summer reading list. You'll have to go to the used book stacks and find out for yourself, because we're not going to get any secrets out of Mr. Ferdman today. Thank you.
Thanks so much.
And welcome.
Thank you. Pleasure.